All right, is everyone seeing the first slide of my screen? Awesome. Thank you for giving the thumbs up, and thank you for participating today with all the icebreaker questions. It is always interesting to know the audience before we jump into these kind of topics, which can be a little gray depending on where you are in your career trajectory. Super excited to be here. Thank you for introducing me, Mashal. Just like super excited to meet all the folks on Product People. So before we jump in, obviously we did a little bit of a icebreaker. I will, without further ado, go into what we expect in the next hour or so. So we will talk about what it means to thrive as a PM and a PM leader in the next 20 minutes. We will save about 20 minutes for questions because obviously a lot of people are interested in exchanging learnings. And then we'll, do maybe 5 minutes of debrief with the organizers, and that'll be basically it. But before that, I wanted to say hello to all of you again. I wanted to introduce myself. As Mashal mentioned, I'm a 2X mom. I call myself a psychology enthusiast because a lot of PMing is about understanding psychology, and we'll get into that in a little bit. I am a curious product manager. I think that is the only one tag that I want to live with till the end of my career. I think that's the only thing that drives me to wake up every day and try to solve problems, figure out what those problem spaces mean. I'm a recovering idealist. There's a little catch in that. I think it is hard to be in this world if you're always an idealist. So you have to constantly adapt to your surroundings. I am recovering from being a little bit of that. I am a strong mental health advocate. I have my personal reasons. I do advocate for accessibility. I do advocate for preventing burnouts, and I consider myself a DEI champion. I truly live that value as much as I can. The reason I'm here is also because I'm a PM career fangirl. I love being a product manager. I love everyone who wants to be a product manager, and I want to help as much as I can. I consider myself a relatable coach to those who learn quickly from failures. I specifically call them failures because there's no such thing as failures. We always just fall forward and don't let success get to our heads. So that's really just me. Just happy to be here again, and just thank you so much for attending this session. I think before we even get into what thriving means, I want to talk about what it means to be a PM really. There's so many talks and descriptions and notes about what a product manager does, what a day-to-day looks like. We can all talk about it in your question and answer session, but really just want to leave my perspective on being a career PM for about 13 plus years. Product management is really it's like a mix of highs and lows and grays and colors, just like life. I mean, you will go through the motions, you will learn your product arsenal, but I think somewhere along these cycles and shades ideally lies high accountability. So I think as product people, you might have seen so many hey Anton, I can't I don't know what, I'm stuck. Is everyone seeing? Okay, sorry, I got stuck. Okay, is that I'm back? Can people hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but we cannot see you.
Yeah, just I guess you
should I stop and start video again?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're coming back.
I don't know what happened. I just froze for a few, but it's blurry.
Yeah, maybe try removing the blur, Mona.
Okay, let me do that. Okay, I'm back. So you get to see all the snow and the rain. Sorry for the distraction, but this is Seattle in US. I'm spending my December with my kids. All right, so we are back. Are you all seeing my screen still?
You have to.
No, I think you need to start sharing again.
Okay, all right.
Mona?
Unmute.
Yeah. Anton, maybe we can unmute her. Okay.
Okay, I guess I'm back. I'm still making a case for Google Meet, okay, for next time. All right, back again. So you're seeing my screen. I was talking about what a life of a PM looks like, and I wanted to highlight and emphasize an accountability because I feel that all of us have it in us to become great PMs. I feel even an aspiring PM already has leadership skills inbuilt in their personality, in the way they aspire to be a PM. But I think in all of these things, all the pictures that you see around, like, business, tech, customers, all of this stuff, like, can come to you. These are all transferable skills that you gain from your day-to-day jobs, you learn on the job. PMs best learn on the jobs, but I think in between all of this lies high accountability, and I think that is what really can differentiate yourself as a great product manager. I wanted to, like, really, like, think through what it means to thrive as a product manager. So, I call it the 3 ships rule, like some people call it the 3 shits rule. You really have to focus on 3 things. You have to constantly focus on shipping products. So you're always doing shit. Yes, like, you have to focus on execution. You have to be focused on starting products. So you have to start shit, like, innovate, like, you have to think about, like, what's next. You're not just, in this day-to-day functioning in that well-oiled machine, but, you're thinking about, like, how do I make myself redundant in this system, in this process, but also, like, do new things and bigger things for my team and for my company. So I call that as, starting products. And then the third part is horizontals. Like, you have to also improve shit. So, what are you doing to improve the product culture in your company? What are you trying to do to improve the product culture in the industry, in your tribe? So I think, like, these are all the 3 things that, in summary of a life of a PM, I wanted to highlight. If there's, like, 3 things that you take away from this session, remember that if you're focused on execution, innovation, and improving product culture, people will remember you, people will know who they work with, and, you're going to thrive and be successful as a PM. But, PMing is not as simple as I make it sound on this slide. So let's get into what execution really means. There is this laundry list, right? You have to be able to ship stuff successfully. Obviously, that comes and goes with, like, being a PM. Execution is how you build accountability, but execution is also how you build credibility. So, all the stuff that we read, you can read all the PM books you want, you can be customer obsessed, but if you're not shipping stuff, if you're not delivering results, that's not enough, unfortunately. And given the current environment we are in, like, as you might have noticed with layoffs, like, there's a lot of focus on financial accountability. There is a lot of focus on, like, can you show results that are actually moving business needle, like, to the right. So I wanted to start with, like, what it means and what are some of the key, like, tools you put in your product arsenal when you want to be, like, really, like, superb at execution. Start with customer obsession. I think that's a given. All of us probably, like, live and breathe the value that, you have to start with problem spaces. We don't obsess with solutions. We start with obsessing about problems. We start with thinking about, like, does this problem scale? Is this a problem that's feasibly, like, scaling to millions of people? Like, is there, like, a financial, like, value to me solving this problem and putting me and my team's time on it? So all of these things, like, get cleared, and, like, you start deriving that mental clarity when you first customer obsessed. So you have to find, like, that obsession with the problem space first. The second is clear goal setting. You can be customer obsessed, but if you're someone who's not able to rally a vision for the team, you're not going to be successful. So you have to have that, time for deep work where you're, like, obsessing over goals, like, what do those goals look like? The third piece is obviously building strong roadmaps. And I think this is something that we all have heard, but it's actually easier said than done. Building strong roadmaps comes with a lot of trade-offs, comes with a lot of, like, handshakes and, like, back and forth on, like, what do you give up to build something that's more important? What are you saying no to? Are you balancing engineering needs with business needs? Are you a PM who's pretty unidirectional, who's like, this is my vision, and, like, okay, like, I don't care about tech debt? You have to be able to balance these things and build, like, really strong, sustainable roadmaps. Goes without saying, what comes with roadmaps is obviously cross-functional collaboration. So, you have to be a person who's as comfortable dealing with legal as is comfortable dealing with engineering. You have to be able to know the currency of what's in it for me, for all of these stakeholders, and know that they're all coming from the right place. They are there in the company for a reason, and you're not the only person who is making decisions. Know that they're coming with perspectives that are unique, and you need to be able to balance and take these people forward along with you. Accessibility, not in the terms of disability and inclusion accessibility, but just staying present and accessible is such a superpower that I can't emphasize it enough. As we grow, like, especially in the L5, like, aspiring PM, junior PM stage, just being present for your team for those day-to-day, like, fire drills makes a ton of difference. So I would say, like, focusing on staying present is a super, like, plus to strong execution skills. The other stuff, I don't think I want to, like, spend a lot of time on it. Be expert at writing. Want to write a good PRD, pick up any product you want to improve, go write what are the problems, what is the hypothesis. So start with writing super solid PRDs, get approvals, learn about statistics, what does P.05 mean, why is it important for making a go no go decision. So I think metrics are super important as well. I do want to say that execution is really that phase in your career when you are trying to gain equity for bigger and better things to come. So with that comes welcoming feedback. So you have to know, there's going to be hard conversations. There are going to be products that fail. There are going to be developments that just do not see the light of the day. You have to adapt. You have to welcome feedback. Learn to fly solo. So become a person who does not need supervision from your manager, doesn't need as much supervision from your higher ups. Learn to build equity with your peers so that you need less supervision from people on the top, because there are people who are standing by you and your decisions because you've taken them along. And like I said, nothing comes without shipping measurable results. Focus on deriving metrics early, focus on measurable results. And I think this is really what I want to leave it. The one example I wanted to share with you from my personal trajectory, because I mean, all of us know all of these things. The value add I wanted to do is with the storytelling from my trajectory. Early in my career, when I started working as a PM at Microsoft, Microsoft was really not big into end consumer out of box solutions. Maybe Office was one of them, but Azure, where I work, wasn't one of those places. It did extremely well in terms of its media, capabilities. We hosted the Olympics, but no one really knew Microsoft Azure as someone as a competitor to, for example, Microsoft Teams today. No one really knew it. I came from Amazon working on Prime Video at that point, pretty similar area, but different field still. And I will tell you that what really brought me forward to my future roles at even Facebook, Twitter, and everything going forward, and today at Google, is the fact that I executed I really focused on shipping stuff. At that point, I wasn't thinking so much about should I question this business model, should I change the strategy of my company. No, at that point you already know that Azure is trying to enter into a B2B to C kind of space. We were trying to build out out of box SaaS solutions, understanding the domain and shipping stuff constantly. I think that made me so much stronger and better towards my trajectory as a full stack PM. So I wanted to leave as a takeaway, focus on execution as the very first ingredient of being a successful PM. The next comes innovation. Now, this is something that all of us live and be alive for, right? As PMs, we want to think through new things. We want to build up groundbreaking things. We want to be the next change makers. Interesting things here, but what really matters here is strong product discovery skills. And like I said, it's again easier said than done. To be a person who's strong in product discovery, you need a couple of ingredients in your arsenal. The first thing you need to ensure is that your current product portfolio always runs like a well-oiled machine. You cannot do bigger and newer things unless your product is your current core is working well. When you have done that, when you think you have nailed it, then move on to other things. If you're already losing trust in running your current product portfolio, you really can't gain exec board to do newer and bigger things, right? So make sure that that part is taken care of. You've really nailed processes around it, that the team is empowered and making decisions and you're moving fast. And then start to try your execution to strategy. How does my execution and day-to-day work layer up to the company's vision? How does it layer up to the org vision first and then up to the high-level OKRs? Are you constantly a person who's thinking and reflecting on strategy? I think this is what makes the difference between a person who's really innovative as a product manager versus someone who's just running through the motions of execution. A story from my career would be my time at eBay. I came in as a media platform PM, working on infrastructure stuff. Helped me become a full stack PM, but my team's identity was really to basically ingest billions and billions of media assets, store them, save them, stream them to any media asset that eBay and its properties would need. As I thought through what my team's identity were, I could realize that there was so much more we could do with media at that point. I mean, eBay had data scientists who had tons of use cases for what they would do with metadata and images, for example, right? You could learn machine learning algorithms to figure out if a product was authentic or fake. eBay was into auctioning and secondhand sales, right? So, we basically almost reinvented our team's identity to say that, hey, we're not like a media platform team, we're an intelligent media processing team, because we serve more use cases than like, showing those media assets on view item pages. We allow data scientists to look at these images, and we have like these pipelines that we have built that gives them scores on whether a product is authentic, how many like, recommendations it can get. And we actually became almost like a recommendation engine for these use cases. So I think the takeaway here is that, you have to constantly rethink your team's identity and long-term vision. You have to be a facilitator of ideas. All the stuff that is talked about mini CEOs, influence without authority, great. But truly, like what I have felt as, being a good innovator is meaning that, you're a good facilitator of ideas. You give credit where it's due, collaborate where it's due, but, really just bring ideas together and like, do that mishmash and think like, where can I take this next? So that's really what a facilitation of ideas means for me. As a consequence, you gain exec confidence. This is really the transition that you have to do to pass that canyon from like a senior PM to a group PM and a product leader at the end. So, you have to gain the exec vote of confidence. You have to be ready for failures. This is where you also have to have a very strong experimentation mindset. You're going to fail. You're going to not get the A/B test results that you're going to wait for desperately. So be like, open to experimentation, be open to failure, but be also like a strong communicator that is communicating risks. You cannot like, just like paint like rosy pictures of what your hypothesis and like success looks like. You also have to be like ready to communicate risks. Like, what if this idea fails? What are my fallbacks? And, what am I going to do next? How am I going to fail fast and fail forward? You need to have all of those plans that come with an experimentation mindset to be a good innovator. The last one is to be an ally to cross PA intersections. What does this mean? Like, cross PAs, say I work on Google Chrome. What is Google Maps doing? What is Gmail doing that can bring some of the ideas that I work on, like transactions, for example? My end goal is making sure commerce on Google like works well. Great. But I also want to make sure that, Chrome works well and Chrome has its unique identity in the world. Great. How do I like, bring like cross PA and cross org vision together? How do we make sure that, there is like, some common goal that, we're intersecting on, and we can derive our like measurable results from it? So, this is not easy, but, you have to stay open to some conflicts, some push and pulls, but being a great ally always helps you like, innovate further for that next big thing. Moving on. The third piece I want to focus on is horizontals. So this is about a lot of things actually. And this is basically the portion I think like that in my mind has differentiated some of the leaders I hugely respect versus people who like, had those titles, but like, who didn't have the respect and support from their bigger orgs. High agency is something that I cannot emphasize enough. And I think this is something I will focus on in the next slide as well, because it's easily described through a visual versus just saying like, be high agency. This is where you leverage your like, I'm not going to give up skills, but also knowing like, measuring risk and like having accountability. But, it is one of those things that differentiates great PMs. You need to be able to bring order to chaos. We solve problems. Like basically, there was this saying at Facebook when I worked, like, don't complain, build, or like, stop whining, build. You have to like, bring order to chaos. Chaos is everywhere. Where there are people, there's chaos. And that comes with, being a product person. Understand what people's psychologies are. Like, why is this person in this story? Why is this person on this call? What value is he bringing? So bringing order to chaos, giving people a seat at the table is important. Everyone has to feel included, but you're the person who's responsible for, herding this ship, regardless of how much complexity there is. Having that vision helps. Learning to disagree and commit. You're not going to be the person who's always going to get yeses. You're also not going to be the person whose vision is adopted as is, just like you presented on a platter on your PRD. It's going to change. It's going to get feedback. Learn to disagree and commit. Ability to have hard conversations, kind of like a tangent from disagree and commit. Learn to be uncomfortable. Like, there are things that, you don't agree with. There are things that, you don't agree with because it's wrong from an ethics standpoint. It's wrong from whatever else standpoint. learn to be comfortable bringing yourself to the table as well. And this is especially true for people who come from underrepresented minorities, women. Like, we're always like so judging of ourselves. We really don't bring our full selves all the time. So I think this is a challenge, and we all have to learn to have hard conversations. Uplifting and coaching others. We all might suffer from imposter syndrome, but if we like think back, we can give back like in some form to someone else for sure. Someone who's just starting, like 10 years like behind you, can obviously learn from your pitfalls and mistakes. So having that like ability to uplift and coach others, making sure they get to their like milestones faster than you, I think that is one thing that to keep in mind to develop a good product culture. Creating an environment that rewards fairly. Know that people you support, people you write peer reviews for, are the people who deserve those reviews and are rewarded fairly. Making sure your community contributions keep on going. At the end of the day, what horizontals really mean is that you are contributing as an individual to your product culture. All of us are empowered to do so, regardless of whatever level we come in, whether we are like the PM who just joined the company, or we are the VP of the company. All of us have equal rights to contribute to the product culture. And remember that it only gets reflected in who the company fires, hires, and promotes. Like, what kind of people thrive decides what a company's culture is. And we all read about it in whispers. We talk about it on blind. But really, like, this is what I want to leave you with. Like, do focus on horizontals as well. This is the version that I wanted to leave you with on high agency, because I think this was like the best description of what I had in mind. This comes from one of Shreyash's posts. Obviously, like, the mix between high talent and high agency is important. The game changes always lie in obviously the Q4 here, the quadrant 4. But if you're a go-getter, great. But always avoid being that cog in the wheel. Don't be a person who is like low agency, low motivation, and like you're the person the team is stuck. If you are, get out of that picture. Find something that gives you more talent and more agency. I think that's what I want to leave you with. Couple of these things. I'm not going to go through all of these things. Maybe I can share the slide later on for you to review. We've talked about it. How do you thrive as a product manager? Keep your product arsenal like solid. You should be like an expert in roadmaps, presentation skills, being a full stack PM, understanding back end, front end. You have like say nailed like being a customer, like consumer, like end to end, like product facing, like PM. Go challenge yourselves, like learn about ads, work on ads, go work on like a platform product, work on infrastructure. The more you can get out of your comfort zone, and this is something I have learned. I came from like being a very like business focused PM, doing my MBA, working at Amazon, working at Microsoft, shipping like what I call like instant gratification metrics. Like when you're a consumer PM, you ship stuff, you change like little things, and you see, oh God, my watch time went up, amazing, right? But when you're a platform PM, it brings like this kind of humility in you, because you don't see instant results. But I feel that because I constantly pushed myself to move from like what I was very comfortable with what I was not as comfortable with, I ended up like, getting these jobs at Facebook or Google, because, I pushed myself on all directions. I didn't like, box myself to saying, oh, I'm just a media PM. I only do like, video PM products. No, I worked on ads, I worked on media, and I can like be as comfortable on back end as I'm on front end. So, please keep yourself like very ready and sharpened as a full stack PM. Solid communication. I think there's so much said. I think the one quote that, I keep in mind is the biggest miscommunication in communication is that it has been done. Like, it's the biggest illusion. Like, we always think communication is done, but like, is the person in front really receiving what I'm trying to share? Like, are they on the same frequency as me? Taking that little like pulse check, and it's not always possible, but it is possible when you have a prolonged relationship with your stakeholders. That's really important. And finding deep work time. I think this is something we don't talk as much about. As a PM, you have to be really, really like, solid about, being protective about your calendars. Like Fridays, Thursdays, block off like 3 hours. I'm going to read like, 3 articles. I'm going to read blog posts. It is my personal development time, and I'm not going to give up for anything. So, find time for deep work, because those are the places and times that are going to give you such amazing ideas. And I can't emphasize this enough. EQ plus, I think there's a lot to be said here in terms of thriving, and IQ is important, and which is why I chose that little image on my first slide. Being curious, being passionate, humble, listening to learn, strong ethics, accountability, reliability, flexibility, and patience. I know that's a lot. But really that is why PMing is hard, right? You really are developing as a person. And I think that's probably like why PMing is beautiful, because you're doing your job, but you're growing so much as a person, because who else like focuses on all of these things, right? You're almost like this like solid human being at the end of like your lifetime. So keep focusing on your emotional quotient as well. Stay humble, learn, just be open, like regardless of whatever like product position you're in. I think all of these things always help people. I want to talk a little bit. I know we're like quick time check on myself, probably a little like delayed. Anton, keep me honest here, but I'll move a little faster from this point. But I wanted to make sure like it is thorough. So this is a big canyon here. Like when people try to move from the APM to the GPM role, right after you hit like the senior PM role, a lot of like mentees that I talk to, and this is something that I've experienced myself, there is this canyon like moving from the senior PM to the GPM role, and like which is where like people start like looking at you as a product leader. There's a canyon, and you're like, oh shit, like I'm gonna like fall. So this is this interesting picture from Reforge, which is one of the courses I highly recommend. I have attended it myself. There are key transitions that you make in yourself to get through to that GPM role, right? One is that you as a aspiring PM, and this is something we all do early parts of our career, right? We want to become like domain experts. Like I work on Google Maps, I'm going to be like this expert on like mapping, navigation. We create depth. But if you really want to move from a senior PM to a GPM, what is going to take you there is not your depth, it's breadth. Like, are you able to like see use cases across from Google Maps to other things? Like I said, like, are you looking at like what they're looking at? So making that jump from depth to breadth is the first transition you need to make. The second transition is like being not obsessed with yourself, but others as well. Like, you can be good in your job, but if you don't have the ability to coach others, you're not going to be able to make the jump, because no one's going to trust you with leading a team. The third part is like, agency is great, like, solving with resources and being like, bootstrappy and like scrappy, great. But, making sure you can solve by allocating resources and influencing others more is the third transition you make. The fourth is like, going from personal scope to creating more org scope. So, obviously your portfolio can be whatever it is, but are you thinking bigger, better? Like, are you restricting yourself to whatever your manager or your leaders like hired you for? These are the things that, really like, nail down what a great GPM or a product leader looks like. Three things. So when you thrive as a product leader, you need to thrive obviously on your own self. So you're constantly being self-aware. You're reflecting on where you did, you could have done better. So, focus on self, focus on teams. So, you're coaching others, learning to lead with empathy, putting people first. That's the second piece. And then building systems. Like there is no way to scale if you're always like, focusing on yourself and your team, but are you putting in the right processes and systems and processes so that other people who come in are not like dependent on you to come in and like, show them the ropes, right? So that's the third piece. When we talk about like what it means to be a great GPM, I thought it's also good to talk about what are anti-patterns, right? And this is something I gain a lot with my conversations with other leaders in other industries and other companies. People always say that the biggest anti-pattern of a product leader is people who are close to feedback, unidirectional people. They focus on prioritizing growth at all costs. I mean, come on, 2022 is such a great example, right? We have so many like anti-patterns of leadership. Without going into names, like, do not prioritize growth at all costs, and like make sure that your org setups are also not misaligned. Like, you can be amazing, but if you are building orgs that are like misaligned in terms of setup, like say engineering, like, being the leader to like product, you're never going to have healthy disagreements. So if you're a product leader, you need to make sure that you're focusing some time on like, building structures that scale and are good for the people around you as well. So you just can't scale being right all the time. This is like, quote unquote from a person who I treat as a mentor who works at Amazon now, that he says that, you can't scale being right all the time. So, just ask for help and stay humble. So this is something that, I would love for people to keep in mind as they grow. So three things: people, process, strategy. When we talk about people, focus on trust. You cannot scale like being in every discussion, in every meeting. Learn to hire people you can trust, give them the reins, coach them well. In terms of process, having sustainable systems, making sure that your empathy leads to emotional maturity for yourself and your teams, and then strategy. Your organizational awareness, what's going in your team, what's going around your team, and then how does that correlate to the broader like vision. I think that's important. Having a good balance between engineering and business vision, and this is where a lot of product managers and leaders fail. Like they're like, oh, this is my amazing like glorious product vision, but are you creating more tech debt in the process? Are you signing up for like your engineering teams like burdens for like many years to come? Don't do that. They're masters of trade-offs. They know like, I'm going to say no because I'm saying no to like 10 things because I'm saying no to the two big things, right? So they balance trade-offs really well. They're highly decisive and they're inclusive. And this is something that's important to me personally as well. Watch out for burnout, watch out for imposter syndrome, watch out for like, cracking the culture code, like coming from like a very international background. If you work in EMEA, working with like, say folks in America, people have different ways of communication. Sometimes they mean things, sometimes they don't mean things. Figure out like the culture code. I think that's something that's important. Saying more no's, and then learn to like do a good dance between the generalist area like I was talking about. One note about inclusion. You can be a very successful product leader if you're very inclusive. Remember that collaboration is not just about like hearing perspectives, but what you do with those perspectives. You can hear all you want, but if you're ignoring everyone else's perspective, you're still not inclusive. So keep in mind that always be very inclusive as a product leader and a product manager. Have courage, measure yourself, let data help you win arguments. Choose cerebral diversity very intentionally when hiring, when you're in interviews. Don't hire people who just look like you, who think like you, because then there is like no diversity, right? If I went and everyone like that I had was like, okay, like this is going to be like the next person who like thinks like me, what did I add to my team? Another me. Really not helpful, right? So always choose like very intentionally. Yep. Time check.
Yeah, just a quick time check. We just want to leave 20 minutes for the Q&A session. You can complete your.
Yeah, I think we're almost at the end. So, and community, which obviously this group also represents. Just want to end with gratitude. I mean, obviously, my teams have taught me a lot. I feel that today the jobs that I do, the roles that I play, both at home and at work, I think my teams have shaped quite a bit. Being BFFs with engineering has helped me a lot. My family, obviously, who's supportive to me. The people I coach and the PM tribe, which includes all of you, obviously. Thank you so much for making this session happen. And a quick shout out to the IPMA family. This is the Inclusive Product Manager program that I participate in at University of Washington. So gratitude to all of these folks. And now we can go into questions. Sorry, that was like a little bit of a rapid fire because, I'm greedy for like, good content, but.
No, this was actually really good content. And thank you so much for this amazing talk. And I'm sure we all can relate to it some way or the other. At least I can. So thank you again, Mona. You can stop sharing your screen so that I can start sharing and we can take in questions. Thank you. All right. Let me know if you can see my screen. Okay. All right. So thank you all for listening. And thank you, Mona, again, for your wonderful presentation. Please share your questions with us by sending us your comments, questions on chat. You can send your questions on YouTube, LinkedIn, Zoom, wherever you are joining us from. And while you send us your questions, let me just share you a bit more about Product People. So here are typical use cases where our team is best fit for your company. First use cases, we help you cover product management positions. In some cases, like your product manager is going on a parental leave or leaving or has left your company. And the hiring process usually takes 2 to 9 months. That's where we come in. Second use case is when we actually do product coaching and consultancy. And the third use case is when we can help you with discovery sessions of the next impactful product you would like to launch. And we have done this all successfully at many clients such as Zalando, Scout24, Freeletics. So if you or anyone you know is in need of our services, please remember, we're always happy to help. These are few of our clients that we have worked with, few of the many clients that we have worked with actually. And here's some positive feedback and testimonials that we have got recently. And some of the key stats that we'd like to share with you. So 71% client retention, where we have had clients renew their initial engagement or have expanded where we have expanded our services to other business units within the client organization. And we have 40 product leaders and product managers completely in-house to deliver high quality services to our clients. And the most important one here is we have 61% women in our team with 66% in leadership roles. Yes.
Sorry, I'm biased.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is our team, our wonderful smiley team that you can see. And as you see, there's this ongiri icon here, which means that we still have position open. So you can just apply on our website and go through our recruitment process to get hired. We have business development manager position open and a growth partnership manager position open as well. You can apply through the link on the screen that would be shared with you. And I think this will be shared in the chat as well. Now it's time for Q&A sessions. So let's take the first question that was asked. Just give me a minute while I open the question. All right. So the first question we have is from YouTube. Just a second, sorry. I lost the question. There's so many questions. Okay.
I think I relayed most of the questions in the private messages in the chat. So just open the chat.
Yeah, I opened the chat there. Okay. Okay, I'll just take the question from Ziad. So Ziad is asking, I'm an aspiring PM here, transitioning from engineering. I'm targeting bigger companies so that I have a product team to learn fast from and who can mentor me. But I found that big companies here in Europe are looking more to hire only experienced people. APM programs don't even exist in many companies. What is your advice for me?
All right, this is a great question, and this is something that a lot of my mentees run into as well, because it's a challenge. Quite frankly, I think this is something we have to address. Like I talked about horizontal, so people who are already in those hiring panels have to one, address that. This is something that I also share as a responsibility. But what can you do, right? What are internal events that you can control? One, you said that there's not a lot of avenues for APM programs. So try doing a couple things. One, even though you're in engineering, probably reach out to your PM partner and ask, are there any additional stretch projects that they were considering that you can take on. So while you're within your current role, try to ask for opportunities that help you prove your product acumen. When you go into your next interview, say that although my title says software engineer, I led these products independently, my team trusted me with it, and this is the work I have done in terms of building my product portfolio towards this journey. So it is very hard to make the jump sometimes in an interview unless you can show some experience, and that experience need not come from title, but that comes from work. So that's one. Two, if you are open to relocating, go for companies that do have APM programs. I know this is not an option for many and this may not work, but companies like Google and Facebook that have RPM and APM programs that announce these from time to time, try to reach out to people and maybe even be open to shorter stints, because this is your fastest rocket to getting into a junior PM role. And APMs are these programs are competitive, but they give you that opportunity, right? So try to change your variables and see if you can fit into what works for others. So like I said, try to find opportunities within your current space, apply to roles outside of your geography. And maybe like the third piece is like, when you do interview, like, even though you come from engineering, like, there are skills that are transferable, like, focus on those as well, right? You managed a team, you understand engineering so well, and then you've sat through customer discovery processes, like, maybe focus on the skills that are transferable. So I think those are the three things that I can share top of my mind now.
Yeah, thanks, Mona. And I hope this answers the second part of your question as well, where you mentioned that you don't have a product position open in your company. Okay, I found the first question we got from YouTube. This is from Bakar, who is asked, do we have any thoughts on how to prove out flows to financial value, particularly for PMs working on internal platforms?
Yes. So I think this is a great question. And this is something that I personally developed a skill, like, maybe like 6-7 years back. When you work on a platform team, it is not easy, like I said, to, prove your mettle in terms of like, how does this correlate to business metrics? But it is still possible. Like, I'll give you an example, like, the media team that I worked on, right? We measured ourselves on like the billions of like, scale, right? How many assets we ingest. But then we started also measuring like, how many of these assets get clicked on a view item page, and then what's the traffic and how many of these like things get checked out. There is always a funnel if you look hard. Okay, regardless of whichever like internal platform team you work on, it ladders up to something like you might be on a team that then powers like some customer facing page. What are some of those business metrics that they're driving, and what are the metrics you're driving that correlates to them? When you do that, that can ultimately like mishmash and like correlate to financial and revenue estimates and projections. And when you do that, like it is so well respected, because then you have proven like why your team exists, and like everyone knows why infrastructural and platform team exists. And the other thing that comes with a plus, and never like underestimate platform PMs, because they're so technical. They bring in like that engineering equity that many business PMs don't get. They can have such great conversations with engineering that they easily gain trust, because the cycles that a business team spends on like explaining their vision and like not being able to understand technical details, platform PMs already have that edge. So coming from software engineering background, each of us gets like pluses. Okay, you have to learn to play to your strengths and then prove business metrics that correlate to those strengths.
Yeah, that was very well answered and very encouraging as well. Thanks, Mona. Okay, so we have a hand raised as well. Mark, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question? Mark, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, because you said Mark and you
Sorry,
threw me off.
I-
Yeah. No, it's okay. It's okay. I also lowered my hand because I decided not to ask it because I felt like my question wasn't so clear. But let me see if I could try and have a good more clear question. It was just around execution. I noticed, first of all, hi, thank you for having me here, and thank you for coming, Mona. I follow you on LinkedIn, and like all your posts, really awesome. So I'm glad you're on this chat. I noticed in the beginning when you were, I guess, in a sense, like prioritizing what are the key things that make you a great PM. You really emphasized execution first, and you said execute, and just ship as many products as you can, unless I misunderstood. But I mean, like when do you balance between, like the core of my question is balancing between product and strategy. So you don't always have the opportunity to, play it like Facebook and say, like move and break things like all the time.
No, so I think
so the balance.
Yeah, this is such a great question. Like, I love this perspective. I am not a fan of like, move fast and break things. I mean, I will just put that on record. I believe in like being intentional about shipping. When I say ship, like, I just mean that, you have to like not be in this like thinking mode, like, because to be very frank, I've personally also struggled with like, being this perfectionist. Okay, my PRD has to be like to the T, like everyone has to agree, every single thing has to be perfect. It is just like, learning to balance like your thinking time with doing time. because your company, your leaders, they're expecting you to ship stuff. And it's not about just shipping products, okay? It's even like shipping roadmaps, like everything counts as execution. Are you able to write like a super like solid OKR document, like when there's annual planning? Are you able to write that, roadmap? Are you able to like, fine tune all these like cross team dependencies? Everything counts towards execution. Like, be intentional about the products you ship, because, just shipping stuff and like running busy cycles with engineering is not going to like, take you where you want to be. But, making sure that, you're shipping intentional features that have measurable results on the business is important. But what I want to focus on is execution, like where you are in your career ladder and trajectory is like decides like this balance to your question, like how do I balance strategy and execution? Because like I'm here and this is where like my work area is, and this is where I've been asked to like do better. Your execution has to be on point, whether through yourself or because you've like, established such good roadmaps and your backlog is so groomed that the teams can function well independently. It should run almost like a well-oiled machine, but you're not always doing the busy work. Sometimes it's okay to let execution fail if that infringes upon like your strategy time, right? So you have to find that sweet spot, and there is no like good answer to that, Marv. But if you are an APM, you gain equity by execution. If you come and say like, I'm going to like change like Chrome strategy, like I am telling you, like in real life, it's not something that I would like recommend, because we all come with I mean I've actually learned the hard way as well. Like when you come in new, you're like, I'm just going to like change the world, like this is me. Like no, it's not going to happen, because people just hired you for like shipping stuff. So ship stuff that's like already in process, question things, be intentional, but measure results, and become a person that someone can say, okay, like X is a person that I can go to if I want things done. Like gain that statement credibility is what I mean to say. It may or may not be 100 features. It may be that one solid feature, but be able to ship stuff and show that I can like get this out of the door. Hope that helps, Marv.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Marv, for your question. Thanks, Mona. Okay, one more question. This is Naveli. She has asked how to handle anti-discussion when product manager and other stakeholders have a different vision.
How to handle a what discussion?
Anti-discussion.
Anti-discussion. Okay, between product managers and so when you have like conflicting views and opinions, right? The first thing is to understand the whys, right? Like as a product manager, like what's and how's, like they come later, but what is the why behind the vision you are selling, and what is the why behind this person's like conflict? So there is this concept called WIFM, right? What's in it for me? Every person is in the table for a reason. If there are conflicting reasons, there is a reason. Like if your engineering is pushing back against something, understand where they're coming from. Is it because they're like resource like crunched? Is it because they're dealing with tech debt? Is it because they don't agree with your vision? If you don't understand the why of the anti discussion that you're referring to, you're not going to be able to solve it. So I think the one of the approaches I always believe in is try to be authentic and transparent. Like don't try to solve every single problem in big group meetings. That you have like say out of 10 stakeholders, 5 are misaligned. Have one-on-ones with them and just ask like, hey, like I'm coming from this perspective. I want to understand, like I hear pushback from you. Can you just walk me through your thinking process? Like what is your approach? And I would love to understand where you're coming from. Giving that space and like that trust that I'm here to listen to you itself, like fleshes out so many problems, right? So trying to solve in micro groups before solving it in a macro group, I think is the way to go when you have like these things. Don't try to solve everything in like a product strategy, product review meeting. No. Have you misaligned on like say the comments that they shared on your PRDs? Have you tried to solve it through one-on-ones? Each time there is a problem, I think the way I look at it is, what are the internal events I can control? What are the things that I can't control? So try to control the things you can, and then try to see like, okay, these are the things we agree, these are the things we don't agree. And the second piece of this is learn to disagree and commit. There are things that you cannot just get everyone's like thumbs up and like on. So sometimes you have to be mature as a team to say that there are 3 people who don't completely like sign up to this vision, but I'm disagreeing and committing because I am a team player, and I am committing to like shipping stuff and being open to experimentation. If you are a person who disagrees in that group, try to put like fail fast strategies in there. Say that, okay, what are the things you will do to like measure like failures quickly, and what's your like turnaround time? So ask those questions, but be supportive, like give your full, even if you disagree. I think like that's what I would do.
Yeah, thanks, Mona. Okay, we still have 2 minutes. I would like to squeeze in one more question, although there are a lot of them. But this is Jamie from YouTube. She's asking, I'm in my early 30s with no CS MBA degree or any product management or project management certificate, bored and stuck with repetitive operations work. How to figure out if product is the good fit for me?
It's like a thing, right? You have to look inside before you like figure out if product is the thing for you. If you already know that this bores you, be honest about it. Like ops is not your thing. Backgrounds don't hold yourself. Like PMing is one of those beautiful domains that you can be an amazing product leader even if you don't have a CS and MBA background. Is that like absolutely irrelevant? Then no, it helps propel people faster. Like I have to be honest, like if you come understanding what an API does and what is the REST and SOAP and like how does like a load balancer work, obviously like great, because those are the questions you might need to be asked, right? But is that like a complete no-no to like becoming product manager? No, like if you figured out that it's boring and repetitive for you and you are like a person who's like more creative and is more interested in the problem space and the why and like talking to customers, start doing those things. Like build a product portfolio, like write a blog article on like why TikTok is addictive. Like I'm just giving an example. Like there are many ways to display that you have it in you to be a good like product person. Like like I said, there's so many things in that arsenal. You can't check all of them like in your first go, and don't be held back by degrees. This is something I always say. Like times are changing, people are like talking about skills more than degrees. Don't let yourself be held back for it. Attend courses, like if it helps you, like ask for a mentor who can like guide you. None of these things are easy, but if you realize it's not for you, you have to self-reflect and figure out if product is the thing for you. But don't come for like the glamour, because it's not all glamorous, like as all of us can easily attest. Like come if you're like really really like interested and you see yourself like sticking and sustaining in this profession.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mona. We have so many questions, but we are over time now, so I'll have to end the session here. Let me just, okay, you can see my screen. So I would like to thank everyone for joining the session. Everywhere on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, LinkedIn. And if you have any questions or more comments, just feel free to reach out to us through all these channels. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mona, for the session.
Thank you, everyone.
Next Tuesday.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.